to attend a Rotary Club meeting anywhere in the country, we always start out with the Pledge of Allegiance and an invocation. Now, the invocation can take the form of a prayer. Most often, it's in the form of a short motivational or inspirational story. So, this morning, my invocation is a little bit of both. So, how many of you have ever heard of the Serenity Prayer? Have you? This is a prayer most often associated with Alcoholics Anonymous, and it goes like this. Take a look at those that raise their hand. It goes like this. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. The middle line of this prayer speaks to a power that you all have to truly change your destiny. This is what distinguishes us from the animals. It's free will, the incredible power of choice. Now, you may not be able to control all of the events and the circumstances that happen in your life, but you can control how you respond to those events and circumstances. You can't choose what happens to you, but you can choose what happens in you. William Jennings Bryan said that destiny is not a matter of chance, it is a matter of choice. Okay, now this is important. If you don't remember anything else that I say this morning, remember this. Destiny is not a matter of chance, it is a matter of choice. It is not something to be waited for, it is something to be achieved. Every choice you make has a consequence, and every consequence is just one strand in the fabric of your life. And if you make wrong choices today, you are at the same time choosing to suffer the consequences of those choices at some point in the future. A famous theologian once said that he who chooses the beginning of the road also chooses the place that it leads to. Now, not every choice is a major moral choice or a life-changing choice. Sometimes it's just a difference between choosing between being smart and being stupid. Now, for example, if you're a non-smoker and somebody offers you a cigarette, don't take it. That would be stupid. But there are some choices that are important, that are significant. Now, if you don't remember anything else that I say this morning, remember this. I know, I've already said that. But this time I really, really mean it. With your parents, with your family, with your friends, with your clients, with your colleagues, always choose integrity. Trust is one of those rare things that once you lose it, it is so very difficult to ever regain. And you know this is true. If you've ever had a friend that has lied to you, how easy is it for you to ever trust that friend again? If someone gives you a reason to question their integrity, you can forgive them, you can even love them, but it is so painfully difficult to ever trust them again. That old genie of distrust does not want to go back in that bottle. So on this vocational day, as you think about your future vocation, your future profession, remember this. You know how difficult and how damaging a lack of integrity is to your personal relationships It is deadly to your professional relationships. So I want to end this with a poem that I've used many times, and our Rotarian friends will know this. It's from a Robert Frost poem, The Road Not Taken, and the last stanza goes like this. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I chose the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. Wonderful invocation. John Hayden, our songmaster. Principal, Dr. Jason Alleman.
Stand up. Come stand up.
Please stand. From Aliso Nagel High School, Chris Carter, the principal. The superintendent of the Capistrano Unified School District, Dr. Joe Farley. The Honorable Dr. Gary Pritchard, Capistrano Unified School District Board President. The Honorable Anna Bryson, Capistrano Unified District Board Trustee. The Honorable Kim Thomason, Capistrano Laguna Beach Superintendent. And from the City of Dana Point, Honorable Steve Weinberg, our Mayor Pro Tem. From the City of Laguna Niguel, Honorable Paul Glab, Laguna Niguel Mayor. And from Orange County Fire Department, we have Battalion Chief Carl Schmutz and his engine company. And from the Orange County Sheriff Department, we have Lieutenant Lynn Comstead. Sergeant Irish, Deputy Horvath, Deputy Capel, and from the Make-A-Wish Foundation, we have Stephanie McCormick. And I welcome all the business leaders here today because through you will help shape one of these students' lives today. So we thank you very much for helping us today in this wonderful vocational day. And I'd like to introduce our vocational chairperson, Gary Maxwell. He and his team have worked so hard to make this a great day for you.
Thank you, Ellen. President Rotarian John F. Kennedy once said, "Children are the world's most valuable resource, and it's best hope for the future." Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for helping shape our future. This day is only possible because of all the donated time and efforts that go into making this day a success. I'd like to start out by having the volunteers on the Vocational Day Committee stand and be recognized. And remain standing until I'm finished here. Penny DeCaro, Cindy Elders, Bonnie Myers, Al Soley, Alan Wickstrom. And now, I would like to have all the hosts and drivers stand as well. The ROP counselors, please remain standing. the ROP counselors, and also the school district officials. Could you please stand as well? Now students, look at all the people standing here. These are the people that made today possible. They're all donating their time. They aren't being paid to put this program on, to help you find your paths in life. So let's give them all a big thank you for all their efforts. The transition from life with your parents, attending high school, where most of the decisions are being made for you, to life on your own, where you have to make all your own decisions, is probably one of the most difficult transitions you'll ever be faced with in your life. Choosing a career is probably the most difficult decision that you'll be faced with. And today, you'll get the opportunity to see if the vocation that you've thought and dreamed about is truly what you want to do. And after today's activities, you'll be on the border for lunch. And I'd like you to exchange ideas with your friends from your schools, your fellow students, and compare notes. After all, the more information that you can gather, the better prepared you'll be to make this very important decision. Also, I want to remind you that inside of your envelope, there is a ticket that you need for lunch, so make sure you save your envelopes. I was asked to add that in. Now I'd like to draw attention to the inside of your program. There's a quote by Steve Jobs. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. And most important, have the courage to follow your own heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you want to become. Everything else is secondary. Use this day to look into the future and look into your heart and find what you truly want to become. Our next guest has been changing the future of the world by following his heart and his dreams. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to please welcome Taylor Carroll.
Hi everybody, my name is Taylor Carroll. I'm a senior at Dana Hills, and first of all I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today. Today I wanted to start by sharing a little bit about myself. Music is my passion in life. In June of 2005, I was forced into a mandatory school musical where I instantly fell in love with music. In April of 2006, I landed a role in a professional company. In May of 2006, I was diagnosed terminal with a rare form of cancer. In May of 2006, my life changed forever. During my battle, I was surrounded with the most incredible team of doctors, nurses, family, and friends that I could ever ask for. Despite temporarily losing the ability to walk, eat, see, and even use the restroom on my own, I managed to keep an upbeat and enthusiastic spirit, largely because of that support team. After a year of chemotherapy and radiation, I received a bone marrow transplant. The culmination of treatment and optimism allowed me to beat 2 rare diseases, ALL leukemia with Philadelphia chromosome and graft versus host disease. Today, after a prognosis of death, I'm 100% cancer-free.
Yeah.
Thank you. I already said that. During my time in hospital, my voice may have gone mute, but a song and purpose within myself grew louder than ever before. On December 29th, 2007, my best friend passed away from his illness. Later, more friends succumbed to their diseases. These losses produced a survivor's guilt that I felt overtook my life. Time passed, however, and guilt turned to anger. Anger to acceptance. Acceptance to love. And love to action. I decided to pair my biggest strength, music, with my newfound passion, fighting cancer. I began speaking, singing, and raising awareness on behalf of those that lost their voices, and after several years, became a national spokesman for Make-A-Wish and other organizations. In this pursuit, I've been able to help develop programs with philanthropist Mario Lopez, UN facilitator Charlene Beluso, comedian Will Ferrell, Make-A-Wish CEO David Williams and Stephanie McCormick, and eBay founder Pierre Amidia. In the process, philanthropy has become core to my being. To date, I've helped raise over $6.5 million to fight pediatric cancer.
All right.
Thank you. In an odd way, I feel that cancer was the worst and best thing that's ever happened to me. During my battle, I witnessed children much better than I suffer and perish in ways that no one deserves to. In this darkness, however, I learned that the light of a few brave individuals can far outshine the darkness that life and circumstance cast upon them. I learned through hardship that with discipline, sacrifice, and most of all tenacity, anything is possible. I am a young and naive person, but I want to impress what my experiences have taught me to everyone that I know. Only you can set limits on yourself. With unyielding dedication and confidence in yourself, you can and will do what you set your mind on. I can guarantee that in your pursuits, you will face obstacles that'll push you to a new level. Obstacles that'll make you want to quit. And from there, you have 2 options. Either give in, settle for mediocrity, or use that ultimate love, that new foundation, as a springboard to push yourself higher than you've ever been before. Never let go of your dreams. Never forget the person that you want to become, the person you will become. And most of all, never give up. Thank you.
Wow, Taylor, what an incredible person and a true inspiration to all of us. How do you follow and act like that? Life changes, as Taylor was saying, that it throws you numerous curveballs. You never know where you're going to be. And he really said it all, that you will find yourself put in positions and new lows, places that you never imagined you'd ever be. I found myself about 8 years ago where I couldn't walk very well because I had 2 collapsed discs. I walked with a cane, was in so much pain that I rarely left the house. then, when I had my back fixed, I found that I could do almost anything physically, but I had nothing of substance in my life. But then I found Rotary, where I found real purpose and found people with common goals and ways of thinking. Working side by side with others to help improve people's lives, create such a bond unlike any other I've ever experienced or seen in my life. What you receive from Rotary far exceeds anything that you put into it. Rotary is a group of people with a common goal of making the world a better place by providing humanitarian service and promoting high ethical standards in all vocations and building goodwill and peace on earth. We are helping children in many ways. We are fighting hunger. We're providing clean water where there is none. Millions of children are dying every year because they have no access to clean water and they're being exposed to waterborne illnesses. We're providing medical assistance where there is none. In fact, one of our members, Dr. Mark Cruz, travels down to Mexico every year to repair cleft palates on children that have no access to any medical care whatsoever. We're providing educational assistance, disaster relief. We're fighting diseases like polio, malaria. In fact, Rotary is a leading force in the fight to eradicate polio. Bill Gates not only donates his time helping administer polio vaccinations, but's donated over $400 million over the last few years to assist us in our fight against polio. In New Orleans, he talked about the incredible force of Rotary. How every person can make a difference, but one person doesn't move an agenda nearly as effectively as 1.2 million. We can accomplish almost anything with the mass number of Rotarians in the world. Those of you who want to change the world, join Rotary and know that anything is possible. Thank you. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Chip Espinoza, who co-authored the book, Managing the Millennials, and is professor of leadership at Concordia University, and who's been cited by many of his students as being the most impactful professor of their entire collegiate career. He focuses his energies on bridging the gaps between the millennials and the baby boomers, the text message generation and the telephone generation. And so please join me in welcoming Chip Espinoza.
Thank you, Gary, and Taylor, thank you for your word as well. Very inspirational. I'm glad I came this morning because I got something out of it. I'm excited to be here because I teach at a university, and I noticed a shift in students from the 90s to the 2000s, okay? And around 2002, all of a sudden, students would walk into my class. In the 90s, they'd walk in the class with their backpack. I'd give a syllabus. They'd take the syllabus, just put it in their backpack without looking at it, okay? Your generation walks in, you take the syllabus, you get a red pen, and you go through it line by line. Now, 10 to 12 page paper is 10 pages a C and 12 pages an A. Everything's negotiable today, right? And I love it. It doesn't bother me at all. It's just a difference. Another thing is, I could assign a reading. And students in the 90s, I'd walk in and I'd say, what did you like about this article? We'd have a little bit of a discussion. In the 2000s, if I said, what did you like about this article? You could hear a pin drop. But if I said, what did you not like about this article? Boy, we would talk for the rest of the morning. So the issue is, you love to problem solve. There are many things that you value. You want to find meaning in what you want to do. You want to have a participation in a saying about what you do. And I think that's all great. But what it's done is it's changed really the dynamics of work. And that's what I want to talk about. I've spent the last 5 years, 6 years working. First of all, I wanted to look because I saw, hey, this is a great generation. And yet I was reading stuff in the media and I was seeing things to say, boy, there's kind of this resistance to you. So I went out and I interviewed managers all across North America. And I looked for, what are the things, what are their perceptions of you? And then I talked to managers about, here's what they value. Here's how you can connect with millennials. So now my second book is called Millennials at Work. And so what you're going to see a little bit this morning is some of the research that I did. But first of all, like I said, I wrote Managing the Millennials. It was so funny because the first company that called me that said, we want you to come work for us was Microsoft. And so I went up to Redmond and they go, how scalable are you? And I said, well, in the mornings I can get as high as 5'5". You know, that's about it. By the end of the day, I'm back to 5'5". So I went out and I got Red Tree, which is a training company to partner with me. Well, what is a millennial? First of all, you've read a lot of different terms of it. Millennials have been called Gen Y, 20-somethings, Generation Next, .nets, netizens. My favorite is global, probably, if I were to say that's what I really think they are, because you're most alike, your generation, around the world than any generation before you. And that's because of your experience. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Primarily the offspring of baby boomers. Ages range from about 12 to 30. How many of you in this room fit that category, 12 to 30? Good, we got the right target audience. Good thing they invited me. Most socially and diversely tolerant generation. If you walk into an organization and you don't see diversity, you think something's really wrong. Okay? Most educated and technologically savvy generation. Most educated doesn't mean that you're smarter than other generations. It means you have more and greater access to education. You can go to iTunes University and listen to some Stanford lectures. You just have access to education. Most sheltered and structured generation, constantly rewarded. That's what's written about you. What's funny in my research, it was based international, and it was with people who were been in their careers for 1 year. And I went to Shanghai, Mumbai, Chicago, New York, all over the place. And in my research, I listed that statement. I said, tell me how you feel about that as a younger worker. And so out of 650 interviews, 4 people disagreed with that statement. There's an incredible awareness that you know that you're fortunate. Research shows today that your relationships with your parents are far closer than generations before you. People in their 20s, believe it or not, talk to their parents once a day on average, 67%. 80% speak at least twice a week to their parents. Different than previous generations. My mom, you know, she wanted me out at 17 and didn't want to talk to me till I had a job and a family and a grandkid. So anyway, what was interesting, what they took issue with in the statement, though, which was funny because they go, well, I'm not necessarily that way, but my friends are, I can see that. Or the one part of this, and in research, you're never supposed to ask a triple barrel question, but I did it because I wanted to find out if they did disagree with it, what would they disagree with? And they said that they don't believe that they're more sheltered than other generations because you have the access and you see things in real time. But anyway, I thought that was interesting. What was significant about it, it means that you're not defended about it. Is that you have a self-awareness about you, and with self-awareness, we can make adaptations that can help us be successful. Teamwork has been emphasized throughout your lives. These are international figures. 1 in 6 comes from a single-parent home. It's 1 in 4 in the U.S. 3 in 5 have working mothers. In homes where there are 2 parents, children get more attention than previous generations. Moms are doing about the same, but dads are a lot more involved today in the raising. The great news about millennials that came out in the research, and all the managers said they're smart, great on teams, don't mind sharing rewards. Baby boomers are horrible at that. There's 100 books on building teams with baby boomers. None of them want to be on a team. They want to know who's leading, okay? That's all they care about. And they love to belong to organizations. That's why there's so many Costcos. Millennials are creative. They love to problem solve. They care about social responsibility. They bring a lot of energy to the workplace, and they want to contribute, even if uninvited, okay? You're so enthused about going into work that you really want to make a difference and bring meaning, and people look at you like, isn't there a rule that you have to be here 2 years before you talk? You know, that kind of. Here's a Dilbert cartoon. We're out of time and we accomplish absolutely nothing thanks to your nonstop talking to the millennial here. When do I get my trophy for participating? Someone was raised with too much self-esteem. Watch me walk. Now, what's funny about this, and there are commercials and you see things because there are the way that we look and we look at generations and how we feel. I'm going to tell you what shapes that a little bit. One of the challenges that we have today in the workforce, and really in any organization, is this. You are the first generation that did not need an authority figure to access information. Matter of fact, an authority figure may be the last place you will go to find something out. That changes the dynamics of relationship to authority. Because what happens is when you go into the workforce and you don't go to your manager or your boss and ask questions, they think one of two things. That person's a know-it-all, or they think I'm an idiot. Okay? And so you don't have a felt need to go to authority. You'll look for it on the internet before you look anywhere else. And so it changes the dynamics of relationship. On the other side, your boss or manager, they're waiting for you to come to them. And they don't necessarily know how to reach out to you. Because when they were coming up through the system, they had to do all the grunt work. They had to follow their boss around and act like they liked them and laugh at their jokes and all that kind of stuff, just so they could have upward mobility. So what I looked at is this situation. If we have this disconnect in relationship between people that are older in the workforce and people who are younger, I think we're going to lose out on so much. It's not only your own individual career development, but on what we would call competitive advantage in organizations. Companies and organizations have spent hundreds of millions, trillions of dollars putting education in people. The only way that education gets transferred that's not written down is through relationship. So if you look at some of the people that you're going to be with today and some of the people in this room, they've spent years in a career. A lot of it's up here and it's not written down. And the only way, and what you want to do, you want to get that information, that knowledge from them. The only way to do it is through relationship. And so you have to build a relationship. So, why do you matter? America alone is expecting a retired population increase from 35 million people to over 70 million as the baby boomers retire. Now, by the way, you're going to be coming out of college, I think, at the perfect time. Okay? Unlike, the last 6 years for people graduating, you're going to be coming out at a great time, I believe. The County of Orange is a client of mine, a crime lab and public defender's office, several different agencies. A workforce audit of the County of Orange in California reveals that 60% of its workforce will be eligible for retirement in the next 5 years. By the way, you couple that with a hiring freeze for 4 years, you've got real issues in finding and recruiting people for these jobs. Now, here's why you're so important. There's over 80 million of you. The other largest age cohort that's working right now is the baby boomer. But like I said, they're moving out. Today, there's a lot of tension between the generations of millennials and baby boomers. It's because, guess what? The largest group usually gets to make the rules. And the boomers have made rules for years. That middle group, the Gen X, they really came into the workforce wanting to do some things, but only 38 million. So you know what the baby boomer did to them? They gave them the smackdown. No, you're going to do it this way. Matter of fact, Generation X is what I call relationship brokers at work. They understand the millennial and they understand the boomer. Matter of fact, Gen Xers, when you go to work, look for a Gen Xer and just copy what they do. They've learned how to manage upward and get everything they want, okay? They're genius at it. So here's the projected workforce internationally. 42% will be millennials by 2015. So what makes up a generation? Well, when we talk about this, we're saying people of a similar age, experiencing similar sociological conditions, socioeconomic conditions, technology, pop culture, socio-political events during their adolescence. That's what shapes kind of our worldview. And that's when we talk about the different generations of how it shapes the way you think about things. That's why if you pick up the Moscow Times and you type in millennial, you'll read similar comments about millennials in Moscow that you will be reading in Monterrey, Mexico, or in New York, or in Orange County, about how they're experienced at work. Now, here are the different generations quickly at a glance. The builders, 1926 to 1945. We have any builders in the room? We better go recruit some. But anyway, the baby boomers, 46 to 64. Okay. Generation X, 65 to 82. All right, great. And then the millennials, 83 to, well, we know you're the dominant group here. You're setting the agenda this morning. So here's some of the things that you experienced. I'm not going to talk about the other generations, but here's some of the things that shape the way that you think. 9/11 and terrorism, Columbine, cell phone, Facebook, iPod, email, going green. You wouldn't say the emphasis on safety, but there's a greater emphasis today on safety that impacts. A lot of people in this room, when we got up on Saturday morning, we got on our bike and we weren't expected home till dark and nobody worried about us. Matter of fact, our parents hoped we got lost. Today, you know, we track your iPhone, we put an ankle bracelet on you, we line up satellites to, you know, look down on you, that kind of stuff. So here's what's going to happen. Up until this point in your life, most everybody's been for you. School teachers, coaches, piano teachers, we're going to make you a success. Commit yourself to this. And then all of a sudden you graduate from college, you're all excited. And by the way, today, don't worry about what you're going to do for the rest of your life. Worry about what you're going to do first. Okay? Don't get stressed out about choosing a career for the rest of your life today. Think about what you want to do first. Studies show you're going to have 5 or 6 careers, 7 careers during your lifetime because of it, okay? And one of the things that I learned about your generation, you don't like to make decisions because you don't want to be wrong. Okay? Don't worry about that. Just go out, enjoy yourself, look, and think about what you want to do first. Here's the culture shock that we have, okay? It's everybody's been for you. All of a sudden you get to work, and guess what? It may be the first time you experience an adult authority figure that's not for you. Okay? They're for them. They're for themselves. They're for the company or whatever. And all of a sudden you're going, how are you going to help me be a success? And they're looking at you, you're here to work. Okay? One of the things I work with managers is to say, how can they, you know, they want to be successful, they want to work hard, but you got to, here's how you relate to them. Well, what I want to do today is talk to you about how do you relate upward? What can you do to get the managers and leaders that you want? Now, here are the challenges that came out of the research. Okay? When I did an interview of 650 millennials at work, and this is what they said. Number one, they were sad when they made the transition from college to work. And that sadness wasn't only about, you know, staying up all night and eating pizza, hanging out, going to bonfires and that kind of stuff. It was about all of a sudden they were making a transition into an environment that they just didn't feel wanted in. And that's going to happen. You're going to have workers that are older that may not be for you. They may even create problems for you. I was working with a client one time. They had a betting pool to see who could run off the new hires the fastest. Okay? That stuff happens. And so here are the challenges that they experience. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the challenge, and then I'm going to talk about the perceptions managers have of your generation in the workforce, and then what you can do to overcome it. You in?
Yeah.
All right, good. This is kind of like getting the other team's playbook, you know? I mean, it's going to be great. So challenge number one, lack of experience. This was amazing. You're very aware that you lack experience. And matter of fact, if you're in here and you manage millennials, don't start with your own experience. Just try to start with theirs when you talk to them and build a relationship. But they know they lack experience, and it's frustrating. It's because it's the reason they don't get the job or promoted or get paid more or listened to, right? And so they know that. So, but that lack of experience, the reason they're frustrated with it is because they want more opportunities. They have high expectations of themselves. Managers perceive millennials to be myopic, means that you only care about what's right here and what impacts you, and you're not thinking about what impacts everybody else. So one of the skills that you can do there is seek out mentors. Learn the big picture. What's going on here? Today is a perfect example of an activity of seeking out mentors. And by the way, I would call you in this room today the 20%ers. The 20%ers that I found in my research got promoted faster than anybody else. You know what they did? One thing that they did, they could communicate to people older than them. They would start conversations with them. That one thing, if you're a parent of a college student here, teach them to talk to authority. It makes all the difference in the world. So seek out mentors. Identify people with experience in your organization or things that you want to do. Challenge number 2 is a lack of patience. You lack patience. You want it all today. Because you live in a very instant society. You can get most anything you want today. You can get things monogrammed, personalized in 2 minutes at the mall. I mean, it's just there for you. You want to be promoted faster. You want to climb the ladder faster. Managers perceive millennials to be indifferent, that you don't really care about customers, you don't care about processes, you don't care about how things have been done before. Okay, so what we need to do here is understand your current role and its importance. Find out what is the importance of this role in this organization. What do I do that adds value to this organization? And understand that so that you stay focused on what adds value to the people that hire you. Challenge 3, being perceived as entitled, okay? This is one of the number one things that you'll read about your generation. Oh, they're entitled. You know, they want it all today. They want a corner office, you know, and they want promoted within a year and those kinds of things. That's what you'll see. You're not really that way. I mean, you're ambitious. You don't expect to get something for nothing, okay? That's a perception. The key is that you want to be rewarded for your work like anybody else. Here's 2 skills that can really help you right here. Show gratitude and express your appreciation. Those 2 things will overcome the entitlement perception. If you simply look at people and tell them thank you for what they did, if you write them a note, if you acknowledge it, show that you're grateful for what they do. Now that may sound very simple, but guess what? For those of us who work, there's a lot of people that don't do that. One way to separate yourself from the crowd is to show appreciation. Okay, challenge number 4, not being taken seriously. Now this is because you come out of school with ideas about ways you want to do things and you want to make your mark. I was interviewing a YMCA director, okay? He was the youngest they'd ever hired in the country. And he says, if I can't make my mark on this organization in a year, I'm out of here. And so I'm thinking, oh, you must be talking about the local Los Alamitos YMCA. He goes, no, I'm talking about internationally. I go, this is a legacy organization that's been around forever, and you're putting your mark. That's the expectation he had of himself. And that's understandable. You come out really wanting to make a difference. And I'll tell you what, Taylor is one of those people. Look at what he's done. He really embodies what all of you are about. You want to make a difference with your life. And that's awesome. The roadblock you may come across is just not being taken seriously. The way you overcome that, simply, is to take responsibility for everything under your control and be respectful. Okay? You want to be taken seriously. Look at dress codes in companies. Look at what you have to do. And understand it. Make the effort to fit the culture that you're in. Then change it. I'm not saying that your ideas are wrong. I like to go cash sometimes too. But the issue is fit in and then change it. Does that make sense? Good. All right. So, the next one, challenge number 5, getting helpful feedback. Quite frankly, managers are really bad at giving feedback. Unless it's really that you screwed up, okay? If you've done something wrong, you get it. But to just get feedback on a regular basis is very difficult. And the reason is because in organizations, managers are overwhelmed and they're busy, or your boss. So one of the things that's frustrating to these younger millennials in the workforce is just getting feedback that's helpful. By the time they get it, it's too late a lot of the times, okay? So You just want to know how you're doing. That was another change I saw in the students. Like, I could go like 2 weeks without grading a paper, but if I went 5 days without grading a paper today, it's like they want to hang me, right? I remember I gave a student an extension of a week on a paper, okay? And I gave her till midnight on Sunday night to turn in the paper. She turned it in at 11:55 on a Sunday night. She emailed me at 7 a.m. on Monday morning and asked me if I'd read the paper yet. So you love to get feedback and to know how you're doing. Managers perceive millennials to be defensive, meaning that you don't take correction very well or feedback very well, okay? So one of the things is that when people do give you feedback that you think is even negative, don't react to it. Don't blame them for it. Try to look and take ownership for that. The skill is to initiate on your own and ask specific questions about your performance. If you're not getting feedback about how you're doing, go. If you did a project and you could go to them and say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how did I do on that project? If they say a 7, don't get mad or frustrated. Just say, what would a 9 look like? What would have I had to have done to get a 9 on this? That's how you have conversations and get the feedback that you need so that you can constantly improve and get to where you want to go. Challenge number 6 was understanding what's expected of you. The problem in organizations, there are a lot of assumptions that are made on both sides. And a lot of times in leadership, because they've been there a long time, they've been doing the job a long time, they assume that you know what's expected, even though you don't. Couple that with you not really looking to build that relationship or to find information out from an authority figure, it's a recipe for disaster. So there's confusion about what's expected or a mismatch of expectations between millennials and managers. And what millennials want to know is what is expected of them. What do you want out of me? Managers perceive millennials to be unfocused, meaning that millennials do not give attention, particularly when communicating. Now this is where communication styles come in really, we're really different about the way we communicate. And that's going to be the next point. But in this case, ask what is expected of you. What does success look like? You want to be successful, ask, what does it look like? What will I have to do for you to be satisfied with my work? Challenge number 7, miscommunication with older workers. And this was fascinating to me because there is an understanding that you communicate differently than other generations. And so in this, difficulty when it comes to communicating with older workers, millennials differ in communication style from older generations due to technology. This is one place technology has really changed the workplace. What millennials want is to have a good relationship with older workers, and you truly do. It's just that sometimes you just don't get them, and they don't get you, and it creates the distance. Managers perceive millennials to be abrasive, meaning that you come across as curt and informal. I got a story the other day in a company I was working in, and a millennial employee was talking to her manager, and they're just having a conversation. In the middle of it, the millennial walked away. And so the manager was standing there like going, and so the millennial came back and picked up the conversation again. And so the manager said, I didn't get that. She goes, well, it's kind of like texting. I can say this and I can walk away, do something else and come back to the conversation. It was a pattern of communication that they used. They laughed about it and they talked about it, what was different. The skill, what we have to do in communication with older workers is to build a relationship with them. The number one powerful thing that you can do is build relationships with older workers. Not only your bosses and managers, but you can learn from them, grow from them, get their expertise. Now, here's a tip I want to give you, just on communication. If you're at work, or even now, an authority figure, if they email you, email them back. If they call you, call them back. If they text you, text them back. Use their preferred mode of communication to establish the relationship, and then from there you can branch out into whatever you prefer. The fact of the matter is, you're an incredible generation that has a lot to offer. There are perceptions out there that are going to be barriers, and you're going to meet them, and you're going to face them, but you can overcome them. I tell managers that I train, the people with the most responsibility in an organization have to adapt first. That's just the way it is. That's what business is. That's reality. But what I tell your generation when I train people all over the place is I say, the people that want the most responsibility will be willing to adapt first. The skills that I've given you are skills that will help you adapt in the workplace. If you use them, I can say with a lot of certainty, because of my research, that you are going to stand out among your peers. And that is going to be critical, because when you see this exodus of the baby boomer, you're going to see people your age moving into management, moving up in organizations way faster than generations before you. It's going to be highly competitive, and if you're willing to make the adaptations, you're going to rise to the top. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chip. Wonderful advice for millennials and baby boomers. So we appreciate it very much. Any questions? All right. Great job, Chip. You answered all the questions. Oh, okay. Is there a question back there?
Is there a question back? Let me see. I know you have questions. I work with you all the time, and I know that you're not bashful and shy. Come on. Somebody have a question? Yes, over here.
What is your advice for baby boomers who go to millennials?
The advice is suspend, you ready? Everybody here? Suspend the bias of your own experience. Just because the way you did it, the way you came up, isn't the blueprint for everybody else. That's probably the best piece of advice that I could give to people, is to suspend the bias of your own experience and try to start with theirs. Yes?
I'm curious about telecommuting, independent work, what you foresee for the future.
Oh, absolutely. Matter of fact, a client of mine is Schneider Electric, and they were looking at buying a building they're out of France, and they're headquartered in Chicago, and they were looking at buying a new building in downtown Chicago, and realizing that in their employee surveys, most people wanted to work at home. And they were saying, we don't need all this square footage. We can get the employees, give them what they want, motivate them, and cut our cost on buildings. So yes, it's going there. I think the key, millennials, when it comes to technology and telecommunicating, here's where they are, okay? The baby boomer lives to work. The Gen Xer, their concern was work-life balance. The millennial wants to blend work and life. They want to play at work and they want to work at play. And technology allows them to do that. So it's only going to get more and more that way in the future. Absolutely. And here's our problem in organizations, for those of you company owners and everything else, is that our benchmark for whether somebody's successful or not, or our metric to know if they're doing their job, is only if they're there 8 hours a day. That metric's not going to work in the future. We've got to find out ways to figure out, are we productive? Are we producing? Are we doing what we need to do? And it's not just about punching a clock in the morning and punching in the afternoon to say, I did my job. Good question. Yes? Okay. Well, wait, you like that? That's my timer. Go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
In the domain of education, can you comment on the concept of the bell curve and how that's changed, if it has, and how?
It has changed, I believe. There's a great book out for anybody it's called Academically Adrift. And what we're finding is, because of this negotiation of this younger generation, we have what we call grade inflation. And where professors don't want to give bad grades because they don't want to put up with, number one, the student, but the student's parents calling and trying to get them to change the grade. So that's one of the, by the way, I do corporate training all over the world. We have parents that call the hotel to make sure it's ready for their kid who's already 25 years old, who's been employed for 3 years. Particularly in Orange County, I tell you what, we've got a lot of helicopter parents here, right, where they just hover and fix everything. Here's another thing I want to say quickly to those millennials in the room, is it's okay to fail, but learn from it. Don't be afraid to fail. I'm afraid that we've done a disservice to you to some degree, is that we won't let you fail. I know a story of a mom who did the final for her son in Laguna Hills because he was going to fail. And all she's done is prolonged his problem in life. So don't be afraid to fail. Learn from it. Grow from it. Move forward. Yes?
Your thoughts on millennials managing other millennials and Gen Xers?
I love that. That's my third book, and I have a conversation on Friday about that with my publisher. I love it because I can tell her this. So what it is millennials who manage people their same age and older. The same rule applies. Find out the experience of the older employee, what they value, what they want out of work. And what you do is actually relate to them where they are. Now, when managing your own generation, millennials who manage their own generation are as frustrated as anybody else with them. Here's the key. Manage out of your own intuition, not out of what you think somebody else would do. One of the greatest dangers that you can do to lose trust and credibility with the people you manage is to manage them like somebody else would manage them. So be true to your intuition about what you would want out of a manager, and you'll be good at it.
What about the next generation after millennium? Who do you think, what's that generation going to look like?
That generation, there's a lot, they're starting to come up. The first people that look at generations are marketers, because they want to sell stuff to them, right? So what we're looking at that generation, there's some data out there that suggests because of the Great Recession in 2008 that they may be more conservative. The millennial generation is very optimistic, right? They think they're going to have a better lifestyle, equal to or better than their parents. The Gen X generation thought that they would not have a lifestyle equal to their parents. They're more of a pessimistic generation. This next generation, I think, will continue to be optimistic, but I think maybe more conservative fiscally because of that. But we'll see. Hopefully I'm around to study it. Yes?
Today, many teams are afraid to call because they're uncomfortable with texting. So how do you think that would affect them in the job environment?
It's going to hurt you. You need to learn how to use the telephone because a lot of people still do in the workplace. And one of the biggest frustrations to people at work is people who won't pick up the phone. I had a program director that organizes my conferences and stuff. And I said to him before I went to lunch, I said, find out where the screens are in the conference center. And, so I come back from lunch and he's looking for a schematic online. And I said, well, where are the screens? He goes, well, I'm looking for a schematic of the convention center online. And I said, dude, pick up the phone and call the lady. And he goes, this is easier. I go, look, if your generation was running the world, it would be easier, but my generation still is. Call her. I say that in jest, but it's a great question. The ability to communicate the way they communicate is critical. I'll tell you another problem your generation has and that you're afraid of. If we put you up in front of a whiteboard and ask you to take notes, you hate it. You don't like to handwrite. You like to text and type and data enter and that kind of stuff. That's going to change stuff too. To put you in front of a room and give you a marker on a white pad, you go, oh my, it'd be horrible. One last thing I'll share with you is that one thing that I think that you're going to have to learn through and get through as a millennial, and I titled one of my chapters this, is ambiguity is your kryptonite. Ambiguity is your kryptonite. And I say that to say that when you make a commitment to do something, you want guarantees, and the world isn't full of guarantees. You just need to make the commitment and do it. I'll leave you what my grandfather said to me. He says, Chip, invest in yourself before you expect others to invest in you. And that's what you're doing here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Chip. We learned so much today, and thank you so much. Here's some chocolate from our Rotary. Whoops. And enjoy it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. And everyone enjoy your day. Learn a lot. For you baby boomers, learn a lot from the millennials, and millennials learn a lot from the baby boomers.
Lunch ticket.
Enjoy.
Remind
And
lunch.
don't forget your lunch ticket. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.